Okay, should be good to go. All right, Tyler.
All right, so we ready? All right, I'll call this meeting of the Bend MPO Technical Advisory Committee to order on November 2nd, 2022. And I will just go through, let's have everybody that's on, well, in the room here first. I'll start. I'm Tyler Dickey, MPO manager.
Peter Russell, Deschutes County.
Greg Bryant, resident, Deschutes County.
And then on screen, can each of you, can we do introductions?
Yeah, do you want to call on, I'll just call on them down the list that I have. So Rick Williams,
Okay. Here.
Henry Stroud,
Here.
Dave Thompson,
Here.
Robin Lewis.
Here.
Oh, actually, sorry, you're in the other one. Sharon Smith.
Here.
Okay, and then we have two visitors, Eric Lint.
I'm a new strategy and program manager for Cascades East Transit, listening in.
Wonderful, welcome.
Thanks.
And Ian Isaacson.
Hello, I'm a landscape architect for Bend Park and Rec.
Great, nice to have you both here. And then I just saw one more. Liza Hamada just came in, so I'm gonna promote her to panelist. You'll see her in just a moment. She is another of the TAC citizen community members. So, all right, I think, and then we've got myself, Hobie Anderson, program coordinator, MPO, and then Cameron Prout, Typewrite 2 is our recorder. All right, so as we do these hybrid meetings, those in the room, please state your name when you're talking, just so we can track here in the virtual world. And then raise your hand in person or virtually to ask any questions. Anytime during the meeting, we're pretty flexible in this setting here. And live transcript with the CC below. And if you have any questions, let us know. We're here throughout the meeting. Thank you.
All right, agenda item 3 is just review and approval of the September and October draft meeting summaries. Does anyone have any questions? And if not, I would look for a motion and a second to approve both of those summaries.
Cameron has a question.
Yeah, and let me make sure I'm on here. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that everybody that appears on the attendance log was really there at the meeting. We had a little confusion at our end.
For both meetings,
Yeah,
Cameron?
yeah.
No, just for September is the one that seemed to be a problem. So if somebody was there and doesn't see their name, please speak up. And if you weren't there,
If
and
you
we
weren't
showed
there,
you,
you're not here
please
today,
speak
right?
up. Well, it sounds like
I think you're
silence
okay.
is the answer.
Okay.
All right, thank you, everyone.
All right, so I'll look for a motion and a second.
Okay.
I'll make a motion. I move approval of the September 7th, 2022 and October 5th, 2022 meeting summaries as presented.
A second.
Second.
I wasn't here for one, so I can't.
All right. All
It was
right,
a tie.
any discussion? All right, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, so now we're on to the main item for today, and that's a review of the STBG application presentation. Presentations about the STBG project applications that we've received. Just a little bit of background information. As everybody hopefully knows, we had started that project solicitation process on the 1st of September. Applications were due on the 22nd, a couple of weeks ago. And then today we're going to be asking each of the applicants to walk us through their project applications. And we are giving folks after today, you know, if there are suggested changes or that type of thing that come as a result of today's meeting, we're going to allow you to update and resubmit those applications by Friday the 11th. And then we will be sending you a scoring sheet and asking each of the voting TAC members to review and score the applications. And then we'll be coming back in December and doing reviewing all the scoring and just doing a final confirmation for the board, and then taking that to the board at their meeting on December 13th. Any questions about that? Peter?
You want our scores prior to December 7th. How prior is prior?
Yeah, let me,
We're,
Hobie,
we're
do we-
hoping, yeah, we're hoping to get those to you right after Thanksgiving. So you'd have a good week.
yes, I think we
A
would
good
want to
week
have,
to review.
yeah, Andrea's out this morning, and so
Mhm.
I will check in with her this afternoon. And I mean, once they go out, I think we'll want them at least probably 5 days before that meeting. So she has time to
Yeah.
review everybody's comments and scores and then compile them in advance of that meeting. So hopefully that works with holiday timing and everything else. So
So the second you're thinking?
probably.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and then this sheet this slide just shows the applications that were received, and we received a total of, I should know, 7 applications. And you can see that 6 of them were from the city of Bend, and then one of them it says Bend Park Recreation District, but I think that was a joint application with the city as well. So the city had a hand in all 7 that we received. And with that, we will jump into the presentations. And Henry, do you want me to advance your slides, or do you want to share your screen?
You know, I sent them to Andrea yesterday. I don't think I
Okay.
made any changes. If
They're-
you want to share them, we can.
Perfect.
do
They're
that, or I also have
incorporated.
them. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're already incorporated in.
Okay.
And I know Ian introduced himself. I'm going to be doing the bulk of the presentation today. Hopefully I'll keep it pretty brief, but Ian is one of our landscape architects, and Ian is the project manager for a nearby riverbank stabilization project that's immediately adjacent to the bridge, and would be the project manager for the bridge design project. So he's here to answer all the technical questions that I would just pretend to know the answers to if they come in.
All right. Well, take it away.
All right. So this project, this project is officially titled the Gilchrist Bridge Replacement Design Project. And the Gilchrist Bridge is the bike and pedestrian bridge that connects Columbia Park to Riverfront Street. The next slide, please. So the goal of this project is to develop 30% design plans for replacing the bridge completely. In replacing this aging bridge with a modern structure, we're really looking to improve trail user safety, increase accessibility, and really enhance the usability of both the City of Bend's low stress network and kind of the downtown Deschutes River Trail system. The request that we made to STBG was for $100,000. This is for engineering and design, and this would be in fiscal year or the earliest available fiscal year, which I believe was 23. So just to give you guys a little bit of sense of the area, if you hit forward one time, there should be some pop-ups that come up. Yeah. So there you can just do one more and show all of them. So there you can, go back. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're fine. So there you can see the location of the bridge. The bridge is a wooden structure that we know was built before 1994. I don't know the exact date. If anyone knows it, I'd be really curious to know. But long story short is the bridge does not meet modern design standards for multi-use trails. And then it's also started to see some structural deterioration of the bridge. A little bit more specifically, the current bridge, it's only got a 7-foot width, which is pretty inadequate to accommodate two-way bicycle traffic. The wooden decking surface is really uneven. And then we've got some issues with not meeting ADA grades on the eastern approach. So when you're coming off Gilchrist Alley onto the bridge, And then finally, the bridge abutments, we're seeing some undercutting of the concrete abutments by erosion within the river channel, and then also some structure failure of walls surrounding the abutments, which I'll show you guys pictures of in a minute. Just a few more things while we're on this side. So Columbia Park is owned and operated by Bend Parks and Rec. The bridge itself is owned and maintained by the city of Bend, but we're looking, if we're able to replace the bridge, that the park district would assume ownership and maintenance responsibilities for the bridge. And then you can see the proximity to Miller's Landing Park. And then of course, the Riverfront Street Deschutes River Trail project, which is a joint project between the city of Bend and Bend Parks and Rec that is partially funded by a grant from previous years, a previous STBG grant. The other thing I want to point out too is that location of the bank stabilization project. So Bend Park and Rec is currently in design to stabilize and replace a failing user access point that's located immediately adjacent to the bridge. We started design work on this project, I think it was earlier this year, with Environmental Science Associates, or ESA. You can go to the next slide. Oh, actually go back. The one other thing I want to point out is that pink line is that's a key route that's identified in the city's new transportation system plan. So these key routes are areas where the city has identified as priority corridors for improvements to the bike and pedestrian system. And I know everyone on the call knows that. So just some pictures. Here's a photo of the existing bridge. You can see the girders. I think they're either glue lam or wooden manufactured beams that were done, and the entirety of the bridge structure is made of wood. Go to the next slide. And there you can see one of many pictures I have of Ian pointing at things in parks. This is looking west. So you can see the western approach to the bridge, which is actually pretty good and meets accessible grades. We ensured that we did when we redid Columbia Park a number of years ago. But the big thing I want to point out here is just to the right, you can see where there's that temporary fencing along the bank. And that's the failing access point that we shut down a number of years ago and that we're currently designing. So really it's immediately adjacent. And we think that by incorporating the bridge replacements into that project, we have a much better chance to get a cohesive design and really kind of redo this area all at once.
Okay, this is Greg Bryant. I've got a question. Are you looking at trying to get that access point to the river again?
Ian, do you want to step in on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. We are currently working through high-level concept designs, which will be taken out to the public for feedback this winter. We have not decided whether or not there will be a new access point or if it's going to be closed off entirely. We're doing a complete thorough analysis of existing conditions, and then we'll be presenting those two different options of full closure versus access to the public, and really to see if it's feasible or even warranted to reopen up the access point. So the long-winded answer, the short answer is that we don't know whether or not there will be an access point there in the future.
And one other thing, that's a great question, Greg, is that there's actually a connection between the design of the bridge and the need for that access point. The majority of the use, to my understanding, at that access point is people scrambling out of the river after they jump off the bridge. With all of our modern bridges, we've included jumping deterrents, which are wires that are put up above the bridge railings. And I think the idea would be most likely we would incorporate something like that into a replacement bridge, which I think would eliminate a lot of the use that we're seeing at that access point. But of course, we also know there's demand from the public to launch at that access point also.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next slide. So this is just to show the eastern approach. This, the Gilchrist Alley is to my back as I took this photo. That alley has recently been paved as part of adjacent home construction, but there's this gravel gap and then this awkward kind of asphalt lip that takes you up to the bridge. And then just, that's a smart level we had on there. We've measured this at above 12%. So we're definitely exceeding ADA grades. And we've also gotten some feedback from the public that this lip in this approach is a major barrier for wheelchairs and mobility devices. And then here you can just see some of the deteriorating conditions. On the photo on the left is some of the structural failure of the rock retaining wall. We've seen that surrounds, you can see the concrete abutment to the left of that picture. And then on the right, this was our consultant shoving a ruler down there where we've seen about 2 to 3 feet of cavitation of the structural backfill that's behind the abutment that's providing structural support to the abutment. We don't think the bridge is at risk of total failure, but you know, if this continues to worsen, it could be an issue. And then finally, I just wanted to talk about the fee proposal. This is a little bit more detailed than was provided in the application. Specifically, I broke out the consultant fee proposal. So basically what this is looking like is we've gotten a fee proposal from ESA for $80,000. And that includes all of the things that you can see. Primarily, we're looking at survey, geotech investigation, both concept design and 30% design, but then also a HECRAS or a hydraulics analysis to ensure that we're not causing any rise to the floodplain, which is a FEMA requirement, and then also a summary of all the permits that we would need to move this project into final design and construction. So the total for that was $80,000. We've added a $10,000 contingency, which is pretty standard for our projects of this level. So that's bringing our total project cost to $90,000. We're requesting $100,000 with the hopes that we can use the fund exchange program, and we're assuming about a 10% fund exchange fee. So that would, the grant amount would be $100,000. We'd lose 10 for the match, and then that would bring us to the $90,000 available for the project. And that's all I got.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Henry or Ian? All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And now we'll go to the city of Bend. Do you want to run it from your,
It might be easier if you ran it. I'm not
Okay.
sure.
because I've got it here. I mean, I can
Okay.
do it if you want.
Yeah.
Okay. So next up, Robin Lewis is going to walk through each of the city of Bend's applications, and I'll just let you take it away, Robin.
Thank you. So here's a summary of the projects. It's too tiny. I'll just go into the other one.
Do we advance?
Not yet. Just kind of to set the stage, the overarching goals for the city of Bend when we were seeking funding was to expand an existing project or be able to add value to an existing project. So we were quite limited with the availability of project managers. And so all of these projects, with the exception of the Colorado, which is the first one I'll talk about, has a project manager assigned to it. And that just allows us to expand how many people we can connect and connect more people and places with our city's low stress network. So we're really focusing on the low stress network. Next. This first one is Colorado Avenue Planning Study. ODOT has 2 interchange ramps coming off the Parkway onto Colorado, or from Colorado onto the Parkway. And there's a lot of activity in the area, a lot of growth, and there's a core pine area, which is now called Timber Yards. Box Factory continues to grow, and there's even some redevelopment within just north of Wilson and south of Colorado that's going on. We've had traffic studies from a variety of those developers, but not an overarching view of what will occur at those interchanges. What is even the intersection form? Is it a signal? How many lanes? And we've done some earlier work on the west approach because that's where the city's low stress network crosses. It crosses on that Colorado-Arizona traffic signal. So we've done some preliminary designs, but we haven't done an overarching study for the area for walk, bike, and even neighborhood traffic protection within that area. But
Okay.
I could do the costs on that one.
Could you go back there? I think,
Yeah.
is your total grant request?
The total grant
132?
request is 132,000.
Oh, okay, then you didn't add in your local fund exchange program,
I did not.
did you? Because
No,
all of a sudden I was adding that down, it didn't add up.
right. So I wasn't sure what was the best methodology, so I took the conservative approach, and the fund exchange is outside of the grant request.
Okay.
That helps.
Is that what normally happens?
Well, and I think we're waiting with all of these, we will have to work with, depending how we, the TAC ultimately makes a recommendation, we'll have to work with the applicants and ODOT to figure out which ones will be eligible for fund exchange and which will not be.
Okay.
And I think probably quite a few of these will have to be federalized projects. So, but we'll make that determination, probably this coming winter or in the spring as we work with the funding recipients.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so a lot of the cost is really in the design aspects to get us up to 30% design. And that would be at both interchanges and a little bit on Colorado as we figure out, there's just a lot of room on the Colorado roadway. It's really, really wide, right near its connection to Arizona. And then crossing enhancements into the neighborhood to connect the neighborhood down into those new developments.
So this to the west, it would extend just a little bit towards like that grocery store, towards that
Yeah.
property.
Lava Sizemore.
Okay, all right. And then on the east side, would it go kind of onto the curve a little bit onto Second, or?
It's not clear if I need to go all the way down to Ani. For sure, it's the ramp interchange.
Okay.
And its relationship with rail. And that's as far as I
Okay.
really kind of envisioned it.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Kind of shows it's right in the middle of some of the city's high equity needs areas. This map highlights 0 car households, which is mainly that pink area. This neighborhood is in the Old Bend Neighborhood Association, and it's registering a little bit higher than the city average for no car households. And the other areas surrounding it really started to pop for those in the 200% below the federal poverty level. The goal of the project, again, is to connect residents and visitors to recreation as well as services in an affordable manner. Any questions on Colorado project?
I have a question.
Yes, Sharon.
So this is a planning grant. Are you contemplating that when you have kind of the idea of what you want to be developed, that as development applications come in, you would be asking for some of these to be built as part of development? Or are you considering that you will then come back for construction funding?
The second one, most of these developments are coming through as master plans.
Okay. Thanks.
Oops. No.
Grant funding.
Yeah. All right, let me advance this. We're having some issues on our screen here at this end, but all right, you ready? I'll just jump ahead here. So next one, Robin, we're on the grade separated trail crossing feasibility study.
Okay.
Damn.
Can't see it. That's interesting.
What are you guys seeing right now?
We can see your slides.
Okay,
So
That's
we're
good.
on the right
good.
slide.
Okay,
It looks good on our end.
okay.
okay.
It
This
must be a cable.
Yeah. This next one is a grade separated trail crossing feasibility study to try and figure out if we can grade separate where the Deschutes River Trail and crosses Archie Briggs Road. Archie Briggs Road is a collector in the city of Bend, and where the trail crosses is on the screen. It's right between, it's the gray line just to the left of the Deschutes River, between the three blue crashes and the one green crash. As you can see, it's a really tight bend, and so sight lines are really difficult for anyone trying to cross there. We have warning signs out there, but these crashes are rear end crashes, and so we're really thinking they're definitely associated with someone trying to cross and surprising a driver. Volumes are picking up on this road, and speeds are fairly moderate. It's just really that there's very poor sight lines. So we're hoping to be able to contemplate a grade separation and get us into preliminary design.
So how many crashes were there around that?
There's just this is 2015 through 2020 data, and there were the 4 crashes right there. The 3 blue ones are property damage only, and the one green one is a level C injury, which is a minor injury crash.
And so, okay, this.
Dave Thompson has an issue,
Go ahead, go ahead,
or has a question.
go ahead.
Yeah, my question is whether we have any trail usage data for that crossing. You know, how many people are using it?
I don't have that. Just the Deschutes River Trail through Bend is one of our most popular trails.
I can double check our, Dave, I can follow up with you on that. We do have trail counters. I forget exactly where our closest counter is. But I can follow up with numbers for that area. But yeah, as Robin was saying, it is a very popular trail. And this crossing actually was specifically called out in our comprehensive plan as an area that needs special attention. So also just wanted to mention that as well.
Well, you don't need to go a lot of work. I was just curious. It's kind of, you know, a ways away from some of the more popular areas. I was just kind of curious how busy it is out there, but don't spend time on it, Henry.
Yeah, that's fine, Dave. One of the issues is that there's not a lot of parking available for that section of trail, but we're actually just started a project to redo parking at Sawyer Park, which is just immediately south of there. And we think that that will likely increase trail users on this section of trail.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, this is Greg Bryant too. Is okay, what were you thinking about doing? A tunnel or a bridge going over the bridge over? Okay.
Yeah, the grades, particularly on the south, it's high and you come down into the approach.
Yeah.
And then you kind of climb a little bit back up. So we think an overcrossing would work.
Are you also looking at maybe pedestrian light flashing? So as people come up to go across there's a flashing light rather than a cost of a full bridge. I don't know.
If the grade separation concept doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be expensive to put a bridge over that, I think.
It would, and this gets us to the design, so we would understand the cost, and then we would have to go find funding for that.
Okay.
It's not a funded
Okay.
construction project.
Okay. Good.
All right, Rick, I see your hands up.
Yeah, Robin, just a quick question with your crash data. What time of year were the crashes? And the reason I'm asking is this is a notoriously wicked grade with a couple of nice curves thrown in, and it's bad in snowy and icy conditions. And those types of crashes, I'm not saying that your assumptions are wrong, but it could also be because of ice.
It could be. And I can double check it and give you a little data on that. Each
Yeah,
one.
I know it's hard to find that, you know, it may say icy conditions, but again, if it's happening anytime between, you know, November and May almost, it could be weather related also.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent. This is in an area that was interesting. It was a little bit higher than the community average for population 65 and older. And it's a fairly close to an area in that brighter, darker red, that 0 car households. So I thought that was interesting. It didn't have, neither one of these were triggering lower income areas. Okay, this next project, bike lane striping. The city is working on a corridor called Wilson Avenue, and we're creating protected bike lanes and enhanced sidewalks and a shared use path between 2nd Street and 15th Street. And this corridor is a little bit isolated. That's our funding was right on Wilson, but then trying to tie those improvements into the city's low stress network and key routes, there's some gaps going back up 2nd Street. 3rd Street is missing bike lanes. 9th Street is missing low stress bike lanes, and 15th Street is missing low stress bike lanes. So this project would allow the city to remove striping and reinstall striping to create those buffered places and reduce the stress level. So it's 4 corridors, and it's striping removal and striping replacement. Next one. This one really did a better job, I felt like, of meeting some equity areas. These areas highlighting the darker colors, 200% below the federal poverty level, and then starting to get into areas that have a transportation disadvantaged population index as rated by the ODOT metrics. We really think this would allow the city to leverage Wilson Avenue and better connect people to that corridor so they can get to jobs and services.
All right. I see Sharon has her hand up.
Thanks. Just a comment. It'd be helpful if we had a color code knowing what these different colors are. I'm sure you know it, intimately, but.
Yeah, the darker red just meant it had a higher percentage than the city average.
Is the color code not, is it a combination of the 200% and transportation disadvantage?
Yes.
Or are the colors reflective of those 2 different categories?
No, they got more intense as you turned different metrics on and off. So these were the 2 metrics that popped in this area.
So what does the green then mean?
It means it is below the average of these 2. So it would be, there isn't a lot of people with a higher population of poverty or disadvantaged population index. So
And then
below average, so it would be
what is that
less people that meet those criteria.
And the medium kind of gray between the 2 dark red and then the.
Yeah, that would be below average. If it's any color besides that gray green, then it would be higher than average. And then it's based on just how
intensity or
yeah.
Yeah, the pink was slightly above average, and then there's a little bit darker pink, and then you start layering them and it gets pretty intense. this is zone 1800 if I recall. And that was one of the zones in the city that had the transportation disadvantaged population index. This next project, this is again, it's a city project to construct neighborhood greenways. This project's been going on for a couple of years now. We're in phase 4, which is the final culmination of the project, and it's the dashed yellow. It are all the streets that are anticipated to be in this project. The neighborhood greenways network is part of the city's low stress network. It's in the core of the city, and it works on both north-south connectivity as well as east-west connectivity. This project would enable that value added and enhancements. As everyone knows, the price of things is going through the roof. And so we want to be able to put in adequate treatments, particularly on the shared roads and the neighborhood greenways, and then areas that need shared use paths, particularly 6th Street, just south of the new Greenwood crossing. We want to be able to get that funded. So this one has the 664 as the request. And again, the local fund exchange is assumed to be outside of that. This was interesting because the colors came in as blue as a transportation disadvantage population index. This is the zone 1600 for the city census tract. It's right in the heart of it. That zone extends into downtown Bend and goes just a little bit past 8th Street. It's hard to see on this map, but there's some traffic signal icons that are key crossings of major roads, the 5-lane roads in the city. And then you can see the little tiny icons are buses. And so that's where our bus stops are. And so this project is really trying to connect people and places. Sharon?
So are you contemplating a variety of different construction improvements? It wasn't clear to me what all types of improvements are coming.
Yes, each one's a little bit different. It has not gone into design yet. So we don't know what the facility would be. We have, to start the project, we have a project manager assigned, and he's working on his request for proposals to get a consultant on board. And then we would begin the effort to develop concepts and move into design and construction.
Okay, this is Greg Bryant, then how do you come up with 300,000? Then if you don't have, I mean, you have to have some sort of idea of what the greenways should be.
Yeah.
You have to have something.
Yeah, and we did when we worked originally on creating this project before phase 1 even. We came up with cost estimates based on assumed facility types. We just need to confirm those through the process.
Could you explain what those are or provide some additional information about what you're doing?
Yeah, a little bit. On Franklin Avenue, which is the main east-west route there, that is right next to the tan block and the dark blue block. That route is assumed to be a protected bike lane. The city has on that corridor, we have done a concept plan through the midtown crossings. And the protected bike lane would span from 1st Street to 3rd Street. And then it would assume to be a buffered bike lane between 3rd and 8th. No enhancements through the tunnel at this point in time. We just worked with city council at their last council meeting on that one. Neighborhood greenways would be on Harriman Street and First Street. We don't know what's on Hawthorne, so that would have to go through that concept development. 6th Street is assumed to be a shared road with a shared use path on one side between the new ODOT or RFB crossing and the pool. And then the Wood Greenway on Irving. So that's all really what we know at this point in time. So this one moves into federal funding, or at least from the gate, assumed federal funding. It sounds like there's some other discussions on that. This is a Safe Bus to School education program. The request is for about $70,000 for 3 years each year in order to have the city deliver safe routes to school education and encouragement. Commute Options had been doing this work for through some funding through ODOT. That funding has gone away. And so there's right now there's a real gap in our ability to reach out to students and work on that hands-on aspects, getting them on the bikes, getting them out into the field and having them learn how to cross the street safely, learn about our city's network, where are safe places to walk and bike to get them to school so that they understand those safe routes. And so this funding, this is about what ODOT had been funding. It's a little higher just because it's federalized. Commute Options for in the past. So that's how I got these numbers.
Any questions about this one?
Although I would have one, this is Greg Bryan again. Is there a reason why ODOT stopped funding this?
They've changed their, they tried to get, see if I can say this correctly. From my understanding is they've created a 3-tier system within their funding stream. And the tiers are emerging safe routes to school programs is first tier. The bulk of their funding went into that bucket. The next one was a little bit advanced safe routes to school programs within communities. They've done it a little bit, but they're not quite experts. And that had the second highest funding bucket. The tiniest bucket of funding went to communities and programs throughout the state that are advanced. They've had an operating safe routes to school program for a number of years, and they're considered experts. And so there was virtually no money available to a program like the city's that had been doing it for decades.
Okay.
So they were just really trying to help those communities that are emerging.
Okay. That's a good process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next slide. Okay, so this one's the last one. So happy. It's a combined project, downtown signals and bike facilities. There's 4 traffic signals in downtown Bend with Walbon and Franklin and Oregon that are functionally obsolete. The equipment is old, the traffic controllers are old. The poles on one of them, I know, is it from 1965, and we got that one used from Klamath Falls. There's failures within the conduit networks. If you go out there and look, a lot of the illumination is now overhead powered because the conduit has failed. So this would allow the city to design, modernize that signal equipment to meet changing technology and allow more efficient operations and detection. Right now, our signals flash at night. So this would allow us just to modernize them and create accessibility as well as just more efficient operations. So there's fewer emissions. The next part of it is to run the survey and concept development and design process for Hawthorne. And Hawthorne is one of the 3 Midtown crossing bridges that the city is pursuing project funding on. This project would allow the city to connect that bridge over to, on the west side, the Deschutes River Trail, and on the east side, the Corner Trail. So it's assumed it's a separated bikeway on Hawthorne and Oregon Avenues.
And is that cost just kind of baked in here to these? I mean, with the costs you have identified on the spreadsheet here?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is just for design of those 4 signals, correct?
Yes.
Do you have any idea of what it would cost to replace all 4 of those signals?
Probably in the 500,000 each.
Okay. Dave?
Yeah, so Robin, I guess I'm not, I mean, I understand the need to replace the signals, but I guess I don't understand the specific bike ped enhancements that provides.
It's not necessarily bike ped. There's, with any traffic signal, there is multimodal aspects. So there are push buttons, and right now I think these are, they don't have the push buttons. There's no bike detection. It's a shared lane. So there's minor aspects that would be considered for the walk bike. This is primarily for the multimodal aspects that would be vehicles, cars, buses.
Okay, so I guess that adds to my question about why this is being combined with a bikeway design, which is, specifically focused at at bike ped, and whether you're just trying to throw the signals in there to get them to get them under the umbrella of bike ped. I don't know. I'm being kind of.
No, it's on Oregon, it's definitely combined, because when you do the separated bikeway, that changes the approaches and where your detection is. With the Franklin signal, there is some bike on it. I mean, obviously there's a bike lane, but we were trying to go for that efficiency with pollution and idling, and try and get the city in compliance with some of our goals as far as our climate action plan. So there's more operations and efficiency on that half of it. It's combined, again, because this is federal funding, and the city's project management capabilities and freeboards is pretty tight. So we were able to go for projects that had project managers associated with them, and the Midtown area has a project management team.
So is Peter choking to death? Has the city selected the Hawthorne grade separated crossing yet?
Well, they had a council meeting at the last council session that gave direction to staff. And so the Hawthorne corridor was prioritized, as well as Greenwood, as well as Franklin. So we got really clear direction to deliver 3.
Okay,
So,
Sharon has her question, has her hand up too next. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Sharon.
Thanks. I'm a little confused by the screen and maybe it's just titling disconnect. So the project you described is in blue for 1,245,000. And then underneath it, it says ODOT scoping estimate for transportation option safety education program.
Yeah,
I'm not catching the two of those together.
the first is the screenshot from the application. The second is a screenshot from the attached ODOT scoping estimate. Those are both submitted as part of the application.
But it's not for transportation options safety education program.
No, I forgot there's an error there. Sorry. There's
Okay.
a typo, a giant fat thumb.
Okay, so what this is saying is that the ODOT scoping estimate for the project above is 1,129,000.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, there's two different methodologies. The ODOT scoping estimate auto-populates quite a few things. And it came up with 1,129,400,000. And the methodology up above, slightly different methodology, 1,245,390. So there's a $5,000 discrepancy in what I'm asking for. I'm asking for less than the ODOT cost estimate.
Don't look like it.
Well, instead of 1,229,000, I'm asking for 1,245,000.
Oh, but you got a local match. Okay.
Yeah, and I think,
Yeah.
I mean, Robin, the two signals on Franklin, those have to be in the bottom 3 or 4 signals on the entire city system, aren't they, in terms of?
Yeah, I mean, if you go out there, they're very dark. Both of them have corners that are pitch black because there's no illumination on those poles. One of them we were able to wire temporarily last winter. So it does have some light, but again, only on one half of it. The other
Right.
half is completely black so you can't see anyone standing at the side of the road.
There's no detection.
There's no detection
for
on any of
anything.
them, which is
I mean,
why we
for-
have to go black to flash at night because we don't have detection. So there's just a lot of things obsolete about them. Their controllers are pretty archaic.
You know how old they are approximately, but.
Well, the signals-
The signal
years.
poles
Poles
themselves
themselves,
are from the 60s.
Yeah, the early 60s.
And like I said, I believe the city got those as used poles from Klamath Falls. So they're not new. Some of them are direct buried. So if you go out there and you look, you can't inspect the bolts because there are no bolts. It's a direct buried pole, which could be completely corroded. We don't know.
so is there any crash history for bikes and peds at those intersections?
In general, bike ped crashes downtown are higher. Just there's a lot of activity, a lot of nighttime activity. We were able to secure an arts grant from ODOT, particularly to install illumination on Franklin because the corridor is so dark. And that's a little bit east. So the mix of crash types downtown are more evening activity crashes when it's dark.
Okay, this is Greg Bryant. So none of these were included in the $190 million project that was approved for.
Nothing's
Bend, right.
remaining for.
These
no.
are different, right?
Yeah.
Or is it, okay.
This one shows that transportation disadvantage index with the 4 signals and the Hawthorne corridor on it. Again, it was similar to the 2 projects ago, 200% below federal poverty level, and that transportation disadvantage population index is quite high for this downtown area.
Is that it,
That
Robin?
completes my presentation.
All right. Do we have any questions of Robin? Any additional questions for Robin about the city's projects?
I've got this is Greg Bryan again. I just got a question. Is there was only the one from Bend Parks and the rest of it from the city of Bend?
Correct.
There weren't any other people that asked questions or anything, any other entities?
No, I mean, I haven't talked to Andrea. Andrea did all the outreach for this. I know that we, specifically reached out to other eligible entities and at least a couple of times and didn't hear anything back. So,
Just sort of.
Yeah, the federalization of the funding and
Yes.
the inability to use the local exchange fund with ODOT is,
that's changed.
it creates difficulties just because ODOT would need to deliver the projects. I checked with ODOT on those 2 that are assumed they have that staff capability to deliver them, but it just makes that much more complicated, and it creates additional funding risk, just because you have to go through one, just ODOT oversight is assumed to take a little bit of money, and then just adding NEPA to these projects creates, it's just one more thing to go through with your consultant.
Here, Greg Ryan, I was hoping things would get easier, but it seems like they're getting worse.
Yeah, they're getting
Yeah.
hard. They're getting
It's
harder.
getting harder. The city is
The city's going to
on the
pursue.
cusp of pursuing the federal delivery
Yeah.
and being certified.
Yeah, sure.
It's a little bit of an intense process, but my understanding is it could take up to 1.5 years. And we could do it in a couple different ways. One is kind of ease into it so that we're starting to be certified, but then we've got heavy oversight from ODOT just to make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's crossed.
Sure.
Sharon, did you have a question as well?
That was my question about where
A
the city is
certification.
with this.
Yeah, and I think it's,
Yeah.
from what I've heard, just kind of building on what Robin said, the city's moving in that direction, but I think there's so many other things on everybody's plates are full right now. And so they're going to be moving, but it's not going to be, they could fast track it, or they could do kind of that slower approach that Robin said. And I think just given staffing limitation issues and project loads right now, they're going to take that slower approach. So it could easily take 1.5 years, maybe even a little bit longer. And it kind of,
It extends it almost doubles it.
yeah, to kind of step through that process. So,
And so, the first 4 years, if they remain eligible to the local fund exchange, that's why we chose projects that we could, that already had a project we could add funds to. They had a project manager and a delivery mechanism. The remaining 2 years that are definitely federal, we really sought projects that, with the Safe Routes to School as a program, ODOT oversight, ODOT does Safe Routes to School programming throughout the state, so they've already got that expertise. And then Hawthorne corridor and the downtown signals, that it's already a federalized project just because of the expense of the bridge.
Yeah.
So that was okay to federalize this aspect of the funding. So we were trying to find matches that met the needs of community, but fit within these limitations and, you know, met the ambitions of this funding.
So just a quick refresher, just review. I think if we don't see any, if there aren't going to be any additional modifications to any of the applications we received, hopefully we can get those applications and the scoring sheets out to you within the next week or so. So give you plenty of time to review them and get your reviews back to us, and then we will come back to you at the December meeting to review and prioritize these projects. You have
Yes.
a question? Oh, go ahead.
Do you want me to?
I'll just state, the applications are posted online. They're on the MPO website under the STBG applications. So those are available to look at. The scoring sheet should be by next Wednesday at the latest, is what we had with Andrea. So if you have any questions while this is fresh in your mind, those applications fully are available. So go ahead, Tyler.
No, that's all I had. Do you have any other questions, anyone?
Sharon?
Yes, can you help us remember how much money we have and what the amount of a grant request?
Yeah, let me go back.
Yeah.
It was on that one of
Yeah.
the first slides we have.
Yeah, and I just don't remember.
Yes.
Yes,
So
we
the-
actually have, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because it was the city of Bend and Parks, they coordinated and they asked for the available funds. So there is not
Yeah,
more
you-
than that.
You
to
can
ask
see
to
that,
be.
yeah, requests were actually less than is actually available
But not much.
by a little, by just a little bit.
Just under.
So I think through the scoring process, if there are things, issues that you see or potential changes that you would like to see, I think we would welcome that as part of our discussion at the December meeting. If there are things that you would like to see the city or BPRD update or modify, we can definitely have that as part of that discussion in December. But I think hopefully there's a space. I haven't looked at the application, but hopefully there's, a place on that application where you can, or the score sheet that you can, provide those kind of comments that we can consider at that time. All right, is that it? Any other questions? All right, thank you.
No, I think we're okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
guys.
Good, thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, Henry. So next agenda item, I'm just going to give a quick update on the carbon reduction program and what that means for us here in the Bend area. So the carbon reduction program, it's a new program that was created under the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or IIJA. And it's a program that's going to provide funds for projects that reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And through that process, the way the funding is being allocated, about 1/3 of the funding that comes to the state will go to ODOT for their projects. About 1/3 will go to the 3 large metro areas. So the Eugene, Salem, and Portland areas will get about 1/3. And then the other 1/3 will be divided among the 5 small MPOs, as well as rural counties and smaller cities. Right now, we are estimating that we're going to receive about $1.2 million over the life of IIJA. So while it's a decent amount of money, it's not a huge amount of funding. These funds will be federalized, and so there'll be a local match requirement, and that whole federal project delivery process will be in place. Eligible projects I've listed on this slide. I'm not going to walk through them, but there's technology projects, public transit, bike ped type projects, transportation demand management, alternative fuels, including diesel retrofits. And so it's kind of a broad range of projects that are eligible for this funding. And so what's been happening right now is part of the process to access these funds, ODOT has to develop a carbon reduction strategy. And so we've been ODOT has formed an advisory committee. We've been working for the last, I don't know, 5 months or so on a couple of things, getting that carbon reduction strategy in place. That's been fairly straightforward, just given all of ODOT's work over the last decade on around climate change. So they will, I think that document is nearly finalized, and they'll be submitting that to the Federal Highway Administration for their review and approval. And then we're in the process right now of just starting to develop the project application and scoring processes for these funds. And then we're going to be, well, one thing we're going to be doing locally is working with you, the Technical Advisory Committee, as well as the Policy Board, on trying to come up with a possible approach on how we want to utilize these funds, just given that it's not a lot of money and that these are federal funds. You know, I think we want to, at least, you know, my push is going to be that we focus on, we utilize the funds for just 2 or 3 projects. We group the fund. We don't utilize, you know, the 200 and some odd thousand per year. We group them across that 5 years, and we just prioritize 1 or 2 high priority projects in the Bend area. And so we'll be working with you on that over the next couple of months to kind of come up with how we want to do that. We'll be talking to our MPO board about that this month as well. The application process will be from February to April this next spring, and it's going to be an ODOT run process. And so we'll be working with them on that. And then the project selection process will occur through late spring and the summer. And again, that's going to be an ODOT led process. And then we'll step through an effort to, you know, hopefully get our projects selected for this area, you know, over the next, actually we'll come up with a strategy over the next 2 or 3 months, and then submit our applications in February, you know, with project delivery then to follow over the next 2 to 3 years. That's all I have. Does anybody have any questions about this program or the funding that we're going to receive?
When does the project need to be delivered by?
It would be through the life of IIJA, which is through 2025 or 2026.
Okay, I've got this, Greg Bryant here, is, can this be included in certain construction projects that, you know, all of a sudden you're going to be doing certain things that you can attach this to for other, or are these going to be independently situated?
We can do it
projects?
either way. Yeah. And I think what I know, at least in talking to the staff from the 3 larger MPOs, they are in their areas, they're going to be doing that. They're going to be adding these on to already programmed projects to add additional bike or ped components, that type of thing, into some projects that they already have, you know, programmed over the next 3 to 4 years.
That might be our best. So that, again, we struggle with having that project management team that can deliver additional projects other than what they're already delivering.
Yeah. Sharon?
So I'm not sure I understand. Is this a competitive process, or are we like our MPO gets 1.5, or I'm not sure how that application process.
Yeah, it's kind of awkward. We've, this is an issue that if you look in the federal documentation that's been pushed out, it specifically says Bend MPO will receive, you know, 1.2 million roughly over the course of IIJA. And yet some of the backing language that's in the federal documentation, you know, says that ODOT is responsible for administering that process for the 5 smaller MPOs. And so the small MPO has been going back and forth with ODOT staff on that process. I mean, we think it'd be easier for us to kind of run that process than for ODOT to run it, you know, but they're not supportive of that at this point. And so it will be, ODOT has said they're going to run the process and that we will be guaranteed about this much money over the course of that time frame. And so it is a competitive process, but we are guaranteed to receive at least that 1.2 million. There may be an opportunity that we could get a little bit more. That's, you know, to be determined, I think, over the next month or 2 as we continue our work group meetings.
So is this being run locally, or is this a region? It's like a central ODOT process?
It's a central, yeah, it's being run out of the climate office in
Okay.
Salem.
Yeah, I mean, if we could tie it to climate friendly areas that the city's considering or projects that are already within our MPO boundaries that are going corridor or anything downtown.
Yeah, I think there's some, I think we can, I mean, I guess what I would like to do, I said, is reach out and work with everybody that's on the TAC that may have an interest in these funds, you know, and kind of come up with a potential list of project or types of projects, you know, and then work with both the TAC and the board on kind of narrowing that down to something that we think is, you know, priorities for our area. What I don't want is this process to open up, ODOT to announce the opening of this process and have the city and BPRD and whoever else, you know, having multiple people competing for it. I'd rather have us, you know, take a little more of a coordinated approach, just given that it's not a lot of money, and I'd like to see it utilized as effectively as possible. Any questions? Any other questions? So more to follow. It's kind of a tight timeline. Obviously, we'll have to, you'll be working with you in December and January to get our ducks in a row for this. But I don't think I'm hoping it's not too big of a lift, you know, for us to get to that point of having a locally coordinated process for these funds. All right, and then agenda item 6, I'm just going to give you a quick update on where we are with our COVID funding. The Consolidated Appropriations Act in 2021 included significant COVID related funding. And if you recall, we received about $1.5 million through that program or through that Appropriations Act. And at the time, after we received notice that we were going to be receiving these funds, the board had directed staff to investigate using the funds for a potential bike ped bridge on the north end of Bend. And so this would be, it was going to be associated with the North Corridor, the Highway 97 North Corridor project. And this was going to be a bridge that would connect the strip development that's along the east of 97, the new development where, yeah, like where Cracker Barrel and Chick-fil-A and that stuff, putting a bike ped bridge or undercrossing over to the Boyd Acres neighborhood to the east. That project, the city of Bend, I think, is still moving forward with. They've done some concept planning process for that. The cost estimates that came in, they looked and developed 3 or 4 different alternatives. The cost estimates that came back from that scoping effort were all in the 12 to 20 million dollar range. Yeah. And so once the board learned that, they said, hey, and the city doesn't have any dedicated funding for that. Then the MPO board, you know, backed up and said, well, where else can we direct these funds? Because we would like to get these utilized for something, you know, over the next few years. So they directed us to develop a more broad list of potential needs. And so we have been reaching out. Hovey, Andre, and I have each been reaching out to you know, different members of our TAC here to assemble a list of potential project needs. And so we're going to be assembling all that information over the next week or two, and we'll be taking that to providing an update to our board when they meet in a couple of weeks, and trying to seek guidance from them on where they want to go with this. We feel like the processes have been delayed enough already. We would like to, just over the next, 3, 4, 5 months, whatever that may be, get that project list, narrowed down and a process identified in terms of how we're going to allocate those funds. No, the funds, they were federal funds, and the ODOT was able to work out a process with the Federal Highway Administration where they were able to exchange those funds, and we actually have those funds in hand. It's, normally these types of funding programs, we're kind of a middleman, in it, and they stay with ODOT. We actually have the money in the bank. They sent us, we have the cash, and so we can, allocate these funds. Once we have projects selected, we'll be able to get the funds to the recipients fairly quickly.
And when do they need to be spent by?
2027.
Yeah, so we have a while,
Yeah.
but I would prefer that we not drag
Yeah.
drag the process out too much longer. I'd like to get them out there for, for high priority projects within the city or within the MPO area.
We have 2
Sharon?
comments.
Yeah, are there criteria or limitations on how the money can be used?
No, I mean, given that we went through that process, we can utilize, correct me if I'm wrong, Hobie, I think we can utilize them for almost any transportation related project that we would like to within the MPO area.
Yeah,
So,
that is true. There will just be some limitations as far as just the same way we can use the STBG funds, which are very flexible. So it's just getting that intent of the COVID funds is the policy board's direction to make sure we address the Appropriations Act that it came from. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, my comment is that if it takes 6 months to get those funds allocated to a project, the amount of money has depreciated by about 3 or 4%. So, with the funds in hand, I'd say get a project and get it going while the money's worth more.
and this may be again an opportunity for us to add on to an existing project, and just kind of boost and expand an existing project. Any other questions? All right, so more to come on that one, and hopefully we'll have a little more direction from our board later this month on that one, and we can come back with an update at our December TAC meeting. So we have about 10 minutes for member roundtable. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share with the group?
Can I chime in really quick? I just want to make sure that the TAC knows that there is an application open for our community members for the Technical Advisory Committee. We've received 2 applications so far. Also, there is an opening on our Budget Committee, which meets once a year. And if you know anybody or have any ideas of who may want to be on this, please forward them the application. It's at bendoregon.gov/committees. That's my plug. Okay, everyone else. Member roundtable.
All right, Rick, I see you unmuted.
Yeah, I came on, Tyler. So the 2 projects I've got going on within the MPO right now is the Reed Market study, and that's well underway. We've got our first tech memos are coming in draft form for review. We've got our first Technical Advisory Committee and Stakeholder Committee meeting coming up on those. Again, that project's got a fairly short timeline. It's about 8 months from beginning to end, and we're about 2.5 months into it. So we're moving fairly quickly on that one. And we will be giving a presentation to the policy board at some point on that. And we've just recently kicked off the Highway 20 facility plan. You might remember the Bend Parkway plan. This is a very similar approach. It'll be looking at Highway 20 from the intersection at 3rd Street out to Powell Butte Highway. Again, that one's just getting kicked off, so we should be able to provide updates to the policy board, I'd say, in about 3 or 4 months. Any questions on either one of those pieces of work I got going on?
Yeah, Rick, just curious, have you got a bike ped rep somewhere in your advisory committee for the Reed Market study?
Yeah, can't remember the name off the top of my head, but we have somebody from Bend Bikes that's going to be participating.
Thank
and
you.
I think they're also going to be working with us on the Highway 20 facility plan.
Okay.
Well, thanks.
All right, thank you, Rick. And Henry?
Yeah, quick update. So we've officially started construction on our Riverbend South project. This is restoring 3 river access points and doing some riparian restoration. So we've got the river left, or the kind of northwest side of the Deschutes River Trail, closed in between our offices, Riverbend Park, in the Bill Healy Bridge, and that project should be going on for about the next 4 months. We just got all the coffer dams put in the water put in the river to divert the river, so we can really start work in earnest on that. And then the other big news that we have is we finally secured all the necessary easements for the Drake Park project. This was 4 years of negotiations with Pacific Corps and with some other private property owners down there. So we should be fully mobilizing for the next stage of construction within the next couple of weeks. And this will include the boardwalk and the river and the underpass underneath Portland, the trail underpass underneath Portland Avenue that'll connect Drake Park and Pacific Park. So we are really, really, really excited to finally tie up those loose ends and keep that project moving forward.
It's great news. It's been a long time in the works, so.
Yeah. There's questions from Andrea and Dave.
Hey there, just to provide a quick update from CET. If you recall, we were updating all of our bus technology over the last year. We went live with our new on-demand system at the end of September. And what this means is we are more efficient in how we scheduled our dial-a-ride reservations. To kind of give you a real-world example, pre-technology, we had roughly 7 shifts for Bend dial-a-ride. That's 7 drivers per day per shift. Right now, we're hovering around 4 to 5 shifts, meaning we're doing the same amount of rides with less drivers. And so we're hoping to transfer those drivers over to fixed route. So we are seeing efficiency and savings within the first weeks of this program being launched. The fixed route platform will hopefully launch December 1st, and that provides a lot of the customer-friendly interface, real-time information, mobile apps, purchasing fare on your phone, etc. So we're hoping to go live with that system December 1st. So we're super thrilled. This was funded by Deschutes County STIF, and it's doing exactly what we hoped for. So we're super excited. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Dave?
Yeah, actually, I don't have an update, but I have a question for Henry or Robin. When we're looking at the Gilchrist Bridge, that reminded me of the Drake Park Bridge, which Robin, I know, had submitted a grant proposal maybe a year ago for replacement. I was just curious if anything ever happened with that, or if there's any progress on replacing that one. Because it's got most of the same problems that Henry just talked about with the Gilchrist Bridge.
Yeah, pretty much identical issues. It's on a key route, as well as some counts from this summer indicate up to 1,000 to 1,200 users per day in summer. The 1,200 was on Thursdays for mention music. So it's a well-used bridge for all modes. Same issues with ADA and kind of roughness and then width. We don't have a project moving forward. Still kind of trying to suss out possible funding sources for that.
Good.
It's still part of that neighborhood greenways phases 1 through 4 project. It's just not a funded aspect of it at this point.
Okay, but apparently you guys decided that the Gilchrist Bridge at this point was a higher priority, since that's the one you submitted the funding request for, or is it just less cost?
Everyone's plate's full, and so that one is moving forward primarily because it has Ian as the project manager. So there's, that the soft capital of a project is extremely tight right now. So.
Yeah, Dave, what elevated Gilchrist Bridge was really Ian coming to me and saying, hey, we're going to be tearing up this bank here, and it makes a lot of sense to replace this bridge as part of this project, because there's inevitably going to be impacts to that bridge as part of their project. We still want to get the Drake Park Bridge replaced at some point and hoping to work with the city on a future project for that, but it's Gilchrist just rose because of the adjacent projects.
Okay, well, there's some use for that COVID money that
Could be a good one.
Out earlier.
Any other updates? Peter?
So the Deschutes County TSB, we brought it out to our public partners for comment, and our consultants drawing those in. We hope to have a public review draft up on our website in the next mid-November to early December. And then the Tumalo Community Plan, we're putting on hold until the sewer feasibility study gets done, because every time I go to a Tumalo Community Plan, I'm answering a million questions about sewer, despite the fact saying, no, we're talking transportation here. So I'm going to wait till the sewer feasibility study concludes, and then we'll ring the bell again for the Tumalo Community Plan.
Anything else?
That's probably more than enough.
All right. All right. Any other updates? Anyone would like?
Sharon
Sharon.
has one.
Just one last comment. I don't have an update for the school district on projects. I may have an update after the election, so I encourage everybody to vote.
All right. Next up, public comment. We have any, does anybody, I know we have a couple of folks.
You have a couple and visitors that can unmute and speak if they'd like. So I don't see anything. Nobody's hands are raised, so go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, maybe not. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Well, then our next meeting is scheduled for the 7th. And I said the bulk of that meeting will be again focused on the STBG projects. And we'll be getting you those application materials and their scoring sheets hopefully in the next week and a half. And with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.